right. All right. Are we live? That's all I want to know. Are we live? Are we back? All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Where are we? There we go. Thank you. All right, where we at? Right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. Hello, hello, hello. Check this out. All right, so this session got cut off, the first part, but this is part two. If you haven't caught part one, where we're talking about the molecular structure of the female and the male, the molecular structure. I'm coming to you from a scientific point of view. And this is that information that, it's deep, it's deep. And some people don't want it to get out. And even some of my brothers, I know this is going to be hard information to take. And even for some of my sisters. And so I offer you the opportunity, if you have information contrary to the information that I'm sharing here. This is my research that I found when I did this, when I looked up this information about the molecular structure and how important it is from many different sources. And so if you have anything contrary to it, I encourage you to come, bring your information, and let's share and see if we can find the facts. But if you're coming to me with your emotions and your feelings and you're trying to refute a fact that you know nothing about, then it's not going to end well for you. I'll just tell you that. But if you're coming to me and you're saying, hey, this bothered me that you said this, and this bothered me that you said that, I want to talk about that. You're telling me about your feelings, not somebody else's. But if you're telling me about that, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Let's have an intelligent conversation. But again, everything that I'm putting out is fact, and it's not in a sense to hate on anybody, male or female. But these are things that we need to know, because as sisters and females, we're putting out energies, like I said, all over this planet, and we have no understanding of what we're doing because we have no understanding of who we are. So this information has been hidden from us. I'm going to get deeper into it. All right, I've already talked about what the male is. I've talked about what the X and the Y chromosome are. I've spoken a little bit about, and as a matter of fact, just real quick, because again, if you didn't catch that first part, please go back and catch that first part, so that we can, so you can be up and on what we're talking about. But we were talking about the X and the Y chromosome. So I left off where we were talking about the double X and the XY in the male, and the X, this double X here. As you see, one of the X's is dormant in the female. And again, as I said, and I'll go back to this, she is the feminine and the masculine, always. Anytime you say feminine, the masculine is always included. She is the alpha and the omega. She is the yin and the yang, the darkness and the light. She is balanced all by herself when she knows who she is. However, one of those X chromosomes has been turned off because she's ignorant of self. We don't know who we are. And again, having all of those chromosomes turned on, that's a large responsibility. And if you don't know who you are, you're going to be creating things and destroying yourself without realizing it. All right. And so once again, that Y chromosome is the essence of the X, because it originally was an X and it was reformed into a Y chromosome, which is where your male comes in. But we see that the male is an essence of the female, because he is a female in a reformed vessel. And the other thing that science shows is that the X chromosome is the original chromosome. She was here on the planet first, and science is showing how she was procreating without the male before he came on the scene. I also spoke real quick about how there is this story that we've been told, the separation between the male and the female, the separation between the feminine and the masculine. That is a lie, because you see, she is the feminine and the masculine. She just had to turn off one of her exes so that she could do business with him. And the problem is that she can't get back to that. She can't gain her total inheritance because she doesn't know who she is. All right, so we've gone over that. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get into, because before we left off, I was talking about how the woman at one point was procreating, and we're going to talk about that. Now, here's the thing. As we talk about what the female is, we talk about what the female is. All right. First of all, let's go over this. I was talking about these giants that come in. I call them microscopic giants. All right. These are those embryos that sit within the ovaries. Now, let's understand that those same embryos sit within his scrotum, because his scrotum are nothing more than ovaries. Okay, let me go back to this because perhaps just in case I just want to refresh this so I can make sure we are all on the same page and we know that I'm not just making this up. All right, here's the anatomy. I'm gonna give you a chance to check this out so we can understand. So we can understand what's going on and what the male is. Okay, as I said before, my brother is my sister, and that the male is a reformed female. I'm going to go over this real quick. When we're looking at the male anatomy, we see that he has non-functioning breasts. He's got scrotum that are ovaries. He's got a penis that's really a vagina. He's got the tip that's a clitoris. He's got the removed skin, that's a labia. The prostate is a dysfunctional womb, and the sperm, we're going to talk about that right now, but his sperm are nothing more than split embryos. Now, for those of you who are still not seeing it, I'm going to show you one more. If you don't see the vagina now, I can't help you, but it is an inside out apparatus, just like the testicles have dropped, the ovaries have dropped outside of that reformed female vessel. Now, what I want to get into is this meiosis. I talked briefly about meiosis and before we were cut off on the last video. And what I need to go into is basically what meiosis is and why it's so huge. Now, I spoke about how everything comes from the feminine. Everything. It doesn't matter if it's a grain of sand, if it's a fish from an egg from a fish, a seed from a tree, or an embryo from a human. Everything comes from the feminine. And once again, if it's feminine, it automatically has masculine. Feminine can always bring forth the masculine. And so this includes those embryos that she is born with. Every woman is born with her full nation is within her. And every last one of those embryos are female. And guess what? All males are born with their full nation with them. They're all embryos. That we've been told this myth about the male just continues to recycle sperm out of nowhere. That is not the case. He comes here with embryos, and then those embryos are split. They're split into four. Let's go into this because before I do that, let's talk about let's see how the embryos get into the fetus in the first place. It's a movie. Love this movie, love it. All right. We're going to watch this movie real quick. And we're going to go into how the embryos actually get into the fetus in the first place and where they come from and when they come. All right. So now here is a vessel. This is a vessel. Now let us be clear. This vessel is male. It is a female. It has all X's. Once again, it was an X before it even got to this phase. So once it gets to this phase, it's a female. Now let's understand what happens. As we're in week 5 right here, and as we can see, you'll see these blue dots marching into the fetus. They're coming from the mother. Now, let me say this about these embryos that are marching. I call them microscopic giants. They have 92 chromosomes. Now, those are huge. They say they are diploid, which 48 diploid, which is a total of 92 chromosomes. That's like a giant because we only have 48 in our cells at this point. So now they come in, and by the way, one more thing about these chromosomes, I need to pause that. These chromosomes have the ability to be anything they want to be. They can be a broken limb or a missing limb. They can be another organ, body organ, a heart, a lung, a kidney, or they can be a teeth, or they can be a whole nother you. These are huge. They're stem cells. These are, with 92 chromosomes, these are your stem cells that you see them fighting over so much and talking so much about. But as they're marching in, let's watch, because here we're going to take a cross section of the top part of the embryo, and we're going to look in as these microscopic giants. These are your ancestors. They have spirits within them as they're marching in. And it's not until they march in, you can see these structures here. I'm going to go back because these are what they call, these are either going to be ovaries or they're going to be scrotum. So let's look at this. So they call this a genital ridge. These are genital ridge, and either these are going to be ovaries or they're going to be scrotum. But right now, this is a female, and the ancestors, the microscopic giants, are marching in and they are taking their place. And so as this is happening, we can see as they take their place, it is at this time, once they take their place, that the sex of this, that not the sex is determined. At this time is when they decide whether or not that embryo is going to be formed into a male, because right now it's a female. Right now, everything is all X's in the sperm and in the female. Everything is all X's. So now, and I'm going to leave a link for this so that anyone who wants to take a look at it has the opportunity to view it in its fullest. But we're understanding that this is a female, and then once those microscopic giants march in and they take their place, then whether or not they're going to deform that vessel is determined. Now let's understand this. As they're coming in, here I'm going to show you. As a matter of fact, we're going to do this. This is when mitosis. These are the cells that mitosis is formed on. Now we've heard of, meiosis. Meiosis. Let's make sure we get that right. Here we go. Meiosis right here. All right. There's mitosis, where it's cell multiplying. This is cell division. Now, meiosis happens with these microscopic giants where there's 92 chromosomes. They call them diploid, 2 strands of 46. And this is important to understand because these, again, all of these are females. These are female, all X's. And once they start to divide, we can see here, let's watch this closer. They're going to divide into what science calls sister cells. Sister cells, all right? Because they're females. They're all X's. And once again, after this, these 2 sister cells divide into daughter cells. Now, these daughter cells have 20 chromosomes, and all 4 of these cells have 23 chromosomes each, and all of them came from what's known as the parent cell, which I call that microscopic giant that broke down into 2 sister cells. and then down into the daughter cells. Daughter cells. Okay, let's go on because we understand where we are now. Those are daughter cells. Now, let's get into this because what we have is the male, meiosis in the male. All right, they call it spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis, creating sperm or generating sperm. So let's understand this. We first have the parent cell, which is that 92 chromosome diploid cell. All right, that breaks down into two sister cells. Why would they use that term dealing with the male? Because they're all female. And then the only thing those two sister cells can break down into is 4 daughter cells. Wait. What happened to the brothers and the sons and the nephews? There is none of that because everything comes from the feminine, including his sperm. Everything comes from the feminine, including his sperm. He is the feminine. He's forgotten who he is in this vessel because everything comes from the feminine. We are spirits. We are feminine. Feminine always has the masculine. At any rate, as you see here, again, this is what science is saying. I'm not making it up. Please, by all means, go look it up. And then if you have any discrepancy, come back and let's talk about it. And then we can go from there. But we're looking at this now. We're going on. All of this is scientific fact. I'm not making any of it up. So here we've got in meiosis is the same in both the male and the female. You're going to have that giant, microscopic giant breaking down with 2 chromosomes. Again, this is these are your stem cells. These are huge. Then we've got the 2 sister cells. They break down into the 2 sister cells, which have 48 chromosomes. And then, all right, we're going to talk about this, as a matter of fact, with the female and what's going on with her, because this is where you're going to understand, sisters, why you still have the ability to procreate on your own. Now, once again, this meiosis happens when either party, whether female or the male, is sexually excited. When you're sexually excited, it spawns the parent cell to break down and into these daughter cells. That's how that occurs. That's when it occurs. So what we need to understand, sisters, is that every time you orgasm, you are creating sperm. And let's look at it right here. Because when, again, now I talk about this now, he doesn't have anything that you don't have. He's got sperm, you got sperm too. You're the original creator of the sperm. But let's understand what's going on with your sperm. But we're going to get to that. Let's understand what's happening with this parent cells. It's called oogenesis. All right. So you got the parent cell, and the parent cell is going to break down into 2 sister cells. One of them is going to be a larger ovum, and the other one is going to be what's called a polar body. It's going to be a smaller polar body. All right. Now, a polar body, those 2 cells are going to 48 chromosomes, just like the males. And then those are going to break it down into 4 daughter cells, 1 large ovum, and then 3 smaller polar bodies. Once again, these are sperm that never go on to create a tail or a collar. Why? They're sleeping. They're sleeping. Why are they sleeping? Well, she's asleep. Didn't we talk about that? She's still sleeping. Where are we at? Here we go. She's asleep. This is dormant. This is why she doesn't know any longer how to do this process, what's called parthenogenesis. When you lose your knowledge of self, all of this has to be turned off because you're dangerous to everybody, including yourself. So until she learns that, regains knowledge of self, she's gonna stay asleep. And so were her polar bodies. Those are sperm. That's all they are. So let's get on to this, because the next thing we want to look at, because we've talked about the polar bodies. Let me show you what this is, an actual image, a microscopic image of her polar bodies. Again, I'm showing you, sisters, how you have the ability. You've always had it. You still had it. They keep talking about it's come from bone marrow. No, every time you orgasm, every time you get excited, just like he gets excited, you are creating sperm. Here you go. Polar bodies. They're sitting right there next to the egg, sitting right there, snoring, blowing more Z's than the alphabet. So now watch this. You got all these sperm. They're chasing the ovum. They're chasing it. Meanwhile, she's got polar bodies right here. She's got sperm right there, sleeping, because each one of those polar bodies have 23 chromosomes, just like the sperm. The only difference is they have not been awakened. Now, so let's look at what's the size of a polar body to a sperm. Here you go. That circle right there, that's showing the sperm that's about to enter into the oocyte. The polar body is to the left in the middle. The sperm is at the bottom. You see the size difference. They both have 23 chromosomes. They both have the ability to create that spark of light. The only difference is that hers are asleep. And that's what she used to do. She used to turn those on, and she used to. Now, I'm going to go back to this, okay? Going back to it. When this is off, she has no sense of self and no sense of how to direct her body and her vessel and the things that are going on around her. When this is turned on, she not only knows how to move things outside of her body with her mind, she moves things inside of her body with her mind. So parthenogenesis, let's understand what parthenogenesis is. Parthen means asexual birth or asexual. You'll see the term virgin around it, or to produce without fertilization, right? Genesis, or O, means of. Genesis means to create. Parthenogenesis is to create without fertilization. And for those of you who are, no, that's not. See, I'm gonna tell you this. I understand that this type of information is very threatening to a male that is not close to his spirit. But for one who knows who he is, who knows that he doesn't die anyway, who understands that he gets the opportunity to create a bigger, better, different vessel, this should not be threatening to you. And to women who need to know, who want to really get this cleaned up, you need to know who you are. You can't do it if you're walking around ignorant and all the things in your mind. Oh, it's just love, love. You don't even know what love is. You still trying to hang on to something that you shouldn't be hanging on to. You still are under the assumption that there's a split with male and female, and he somehow balances you. You are balanced when you know who you are. Now, for those of you who are not, who want something to look up and who really want to study this, look up the Parthenon. Once again, Parthen means absence of fertilization. It means asexual. Look up the Parthenon was closed down by a religious organization, which all religions are patriarchal. And they look, if I tell this information to women, people get threatened, males get threatened just by me saying it. Can you imagine that this Parthenon was a place where women went? This is at the height of the patriarchal movement, where they went to learn how to give birth without the male. Do you understand how threatening that is? Do your research, because again, somebody doesn't want you to know what your powers are. you want to gain access to your other ex, so we can clean up this mess, you got to know who you are. Do your research. Also look up the Amazon women, which were in the South of America. Look up the Khalifa tribe, which is in the north of America. She's the one who the California was named after. These are all women tribes. Women were procreating without the male before they came on the scene. And that is how she did it. And she still has the ability to do it when she wakes up and starts understanding self. Once again, you see a sperm, you see the polar body. See the size, they both have 23 chromosomes. One of them is asleep. And that's like, that's like the rabbit and the hare? The rabbit and the hare and the turtle, whatever it is, where one of them just fell asleep. Well, there you go. The rabbit. All right, so here we go. The next thing we want to look at is this right here. Now, we have been told, like I said, that the male is the one that determines the sex of the child. Well, everything that you've seen, again, I didn't make any of it up. Science is showing you that sperms are always daughter cells. I didn't make it up. So there is no such thing as a male sperm. They're all female. And once that male and the sperm and the egg unite, they're females. They are going to stay females until here. Until the ancestors come in and take their place. That's when they change. That's when the sex of the male is determined. Now, there are a couple of things that go on with that, and I would have to get into that when I talk about spirituality, because you can see some things going on a spiritual level with that. Also a historical level, and then you would have to introduce science. So you can't. People want to split this. Oh, it's science, it's metaphysics over here, it's spirituality over here. They're all tied in. They're all tied in. So it's the male and the woman that's creating this being. And on a physical level, on this level, the woman who is in turmoil is the one who's going to degrade or reform that embryo to a male. When she's in turmoil, when she's not happy with herself, she's in a bad relationship, she doesn't like her job, she's not eating well, she's mentally unstable, that's the one who ends up reforming that vessel. Now, if I have any questions, please go ahead and put them in. If I have any pushbacks, yeah, go ahead and put those in there so that we can talk about it and get on it. And grow. We can grow together, because I'm not, again, if you have information to present that is contrary to anything that I've said here, please go ahead and present it. Now, the last thing that I want to say, and I know this is another threatening thing, and again, we've just been lied to about everything that's going on. But hear this, and again, this is not to diss anybody, but the woman controls the number of beings, male beings on this planet. The woman controls the number of male beings on this planet. Now, once again, I've said that a woman who's giving birth to a male is indicative of a woman who was in turmoil at the time of her pregnancy. That's not saying that she didn't love her son. That's not saying any of that. It's saying at the time of the pregnancy, this woman was in turmoil. And you can see that when you go into other societies where there's a lot of strife, where there's a lot of warring going on. And the woman, she's giving birth to a higher number of males. But science is showing. And the thing is, again, she can't activate her inheritance, which, once again, going back to this is her inheritance, because she has no knowledge of self. She is turn that off. And especially when we're dealing with women who are in war-torn society, this is a good thing, because she's going to be really damaging herself and everything else by not knowing who she is if she had that inheritance. So, sisters, my point of this is to help us to understand who we are, so that we can start to clean up this mess. This is not about dissing the brothers, and as a matter of fact, we should never do that, because that's what got us into this situation in the first place. And I'll be glad to go into the history and talk more about how we can see, using universal laws and using historical documentation in archaeology, we can understand what went on in the past, and we can see how she started this mess, and how the only way we get out of it is when she gains knowledge of self. And that starts with understanding who you are on a molecular level. Who are you? Who is he? And so we got to, once again, once we get back to this, then we can start working better together. The brother will know how to respect the woman. Let me see if I have any questions here. And again, I know this is hard information to take. It is not my desire to put out negative information about my brother, because I love my brother. And for my sisters, I know this is tough information as well for you to take, but we got to know who we are. I'm gonna show this real quick, because I pulled up this movie, but I want to show real quick. This is the fertilization, so you can see what it looks like when the sperm is meeting the ovum, and about how long it takes. So here you have a sperm, and I drew a circle around it earlier, but you can see the sperm there at the lower right, and it's going into the ovum. And once again, there's a polar body up there, just sitting there snoozing. And so now the egg is about to split. And I think we're about 5 hours into it, 7 hours, 8 to the fertilization of this egg, and it's about to split. Now, here's another way you can tell that all sperm are originally female, because once this is mitosis, what we're looking at right now. So once these eggs split, these cells start to split. All of them, if there was a Y chromosome in there, they're all going to be the same. If that's the case, because we're coming up on what, 24 hours almost, and there's 4. Now, surely in a day, if that was a Y chromosome, every last cell in that pile is going to be a Y. It's going to be a Y chromosome. So let me go back to this so we can look at this right here. Now, as soon as that egg and that cell, that egg and that sperm cell together, they start to do mitosis, where they start to replicate. And if that cell were a Y, if that sperm cell were a Y, then every cell that's replicating is going to have a Y chromosome in it. So if that's the case, why is it that we have to wait 2 weeks before we know the sex of the child? You have 2 weeks because of the simple fact that it's a female. And you until those ancestors, as we talked about, start marching in, those giants, until they start marching in, we don't know. They are the ones who determine it. The mother, and actually the energy coming from the male. That's another story. I'd have to go into that when we're talking about spirituality and some other things that it deals with. However, it is the woman that is determining the sex of the child. And we need to know that so that we can understand what's going on. We've been lied to. We've got to get on who we are. And again, for my brothers who are doing their research, who are close to their spirit, like I said, I respect you. I love you. I appreciate you. Stay on your knowledge. This is about us. We are in these lower vibratory vessels. These are lower vibratory vessels. You are a spirit having a human experience. Don't get attached to these vessels, because we got bigger and better vessels to create. These are lower vibratory, but the sisters got to know who they are, because we keep blowing off energies all over this planet, and we got to get it cleaned up. All right. If I don't have any questions, I'm going to check once more to see if I have any questions. See. Any questions? Nope, no questions. Well, thank you all for joining me, Diva. I'm out. I know this was some heavy information. If you have any pushback, any questions you have, hit me in the inbox. I would love to have a conversation with you on this. If I offended somebody, hit me in the inbox. I'd love to have a conversation about it, because that is not my purpose here. My purpose is to make sure the truth gets out for everybody. Everybody, male, female, melanated, non-melanated, albion, Chinese, I don't care. Everybody who wants to get it, that's what it's for. And you can grow and vibrate on a higher level. Diva Laree, I'm out. Peace. Thank you.